Thanks everyone for joining. This is the Diverse Podcast. My name's Toby, and I'm here with Theo Faulkner. So thanks for joining, Theo. Theo is graduating next year with a degree in business and econ. So yeah, welcome to the show, Theo. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, man.
Great. We were just chatting about Arsenal. Unfortunately, they got knocked out of the Europa League in the semi-final last night. So we're a bit down in the dumps today. So this is going to be a sad episode probably. But we do have some good news because you've landed a role, so we can at least be positive about that. So why don't you give a little bit of background as to yourself and the opportunity you've landed as well?
Cool. So I'll start with myself. So as you said, my name's Theo. Second year student at Nottingham Trent University, and yeah, as I said, studying econ and business. What do I like to do? I like to play basketball. Watch football, as you know, Arsenal fan. What else do I like to do? I'm a trader as well. So
Okay.
yeah, I've been I consider it a project because I've been working on it for a couple of years now, and every day just making progress on that. And yeah, I'm just a cool guy, just chilling.
I
You
like
know.
it.
Um,
I like it. Yeah, I can see why they hired you already. So tell me about where you're going to be working. What's the job as well, and we'll get into the application process after that.
So proSapient is, I hope I'm not saying it wrong. proSapient, sorry, is the company that have hired me for the summer internship, and it's a company that kind of specializes in connecting clients with experts in various fields. I think there is a big focus on the forex industry in the company, but they do offer other services from other industries as well. And for me personally, I'm a forex guy. As I mentioned, I'm a trader. So that was kind of my instant appeal. That's why I applied for in the first place because of that relationship. But then I kind of realized that this company is a really young company, is a startup. Um, Obviously they believe in can't say the word, diversification and
Yeah.
whatnot. And they really proved it in the hiring process, which I'll kind of touch on in a little bit. Um, but yeah, they weren't the first company I applied for. I had failed like 16 or 17 times, I'll be honest. Like I applied to a lot of companies. But this, I think I did get quite lucky getting this company in particular, just because of the vibe. I suppose the vibe I get from the people over FaceTime at least. Not FaceTime, over Zoom.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, this is
You
a
didn't get lucky. You did your thing. You did well in the process, and they hired you because of that. So, and yeah, so straight away you've already given a good piece of advice there. Like you were getting involved in investing in trading, and that's something I guess you brought up in the process.
yeah.
And I think sometimes people forget this. It's like you can get experience doing things that are going to be relevant in the job that you want to go for, and that could be a differentiator on your CV. You know that could work even better than getting an internship, right? So that's the first sort of nugget you've shared already to be mindful of. And do you know what you'll be doing in the actual role? Do you have what's the name of the title and that kind of thing?
So in terms of the name of the title, I'm kind of just like a connector, so like an advisor, for the people that serve for the clients, for example. So the clients will come to me, I'm assuming, come to me asking for a certain professional in a certain field, and it'll
Hmm.
be my job to kind of match the personalities and the skills required in order to kind of create the best relationship and help the client at the end of the day. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so that's quite basic, but I'm sure that as I get more information and more details, I'll be able to give a better answer. Um, but yeah, it
Yeah.
obviously on paper it doesn't seem super interesting, but I feel like once I'm in the role, working with all these young people, I think it's going to be quite an experience.
Yeah, no, I think there's so funnily enough, I actually used to do this job.
Oh,
Not for them, but I used to work for a company called Alpha Sites,
okay.
who are another expert network. That's the industry we're talking about. And so for anyone who's not too familiar with the industry, you've kind of got as this funny world where you've got consulting for consultants, which is a bit
Yeah.
mad, but it's a massive industry. So there's investment banks, there's private equity firms, there's consultancies, there's corporates now. Before they make a move, so before they make an investment or a business decision or a move into a new sector, they like to get as much information as possible before they do that. And what better way to do that than to speak to someone who is an industry expert who's worked there for all their life? Um, and you can actually have a phone call with them. You can sit down and have a business meeting. You can get them to advise you throughout the project process of the project. And so yeah, it's a great opportunity for them. So they go to companies like proSapient and Alpha Sites and so on, and say to them, or for example, I used to work on projects like African biscuit industry. So they would go to me and they said, Toby, we want to invest in the African biscuit space, but we don't know what we're doing. So you need to find an expert in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Cameroon, or whatever. So I would like research the industry, kind of get an understanding of the trends, who the big players are in the market, like what's going down, and then you try and find people who have experience in those industries, and then you connect them up to your client for like meetings, phone calls, that kind of thing.
So it's way better.
Yeah. Well, I've done it for a year. So, and I think this is an important thing to note. Like, often you see a job description and you think one thing, and I think employers maybe don't always do the best job of explaining roles in the job description. This is one thing I'm trying to change, because then once you do it for a bit, you understand it on a much more deeper level. And I think that's one thing we can help people do as well. Is like explain what goes on in these jobs. But I think it's an incredible job to land at the early part of your career. For me, it was my inflection point with my career. I went from maybe doing like 50 applications for my placement, lots of rejection, struggling there. And then I got this role in Alpha Sites, and I performed well in terms of sales, and that taught me how to sell, which is so valuable. Yeah, learn a lot about business, and then from there you've got a great role in your CV to do whatever you want to do after that, and you get to learn about so many industries. I did like African biscuits, I did like submarines, sports, tech, so it's fascinating stuff. But let's dive into the application process then. So what was that like? Take me through each steps, and let's see how you kind of did through each stage. Like, what did you do well?
Okay.
What did you learn? Yeah, let's dive into that.
Just before I get into that, I just want to say it was a little while ago, so if the facts are a bit jaggedy, then I apologize. But I think it was a traditional introduction, so like just submitting my CV to the company. But what they do, I think they have a program on their side where they get rid of the name and kind of like any like ethnic or any cultural or religious information, and they call this a blind test, which I thought was really interesting as well. So yeah, just submit the CV, and I think they must have liked what they saw there. Then it was a phone call.
And just on that, Theo, how did you feel about that? So it's blind, and obviously they're doing that to try and remove any kind of bias, because every human, we've got our own sort of biases. So did you feel that was really good, or it didn't cross your mind? What were your thoughts on that?
I think for like the average person, I think it's a really good thing. I think for someone who's got their CV kind of aesthetically and like content wise really good, I think it doesn't really make a big difference in my opinion. But I think for overall, I think it is something that definitely needs to be encouraged more with more companies. So yeah, I did really appreciate that. So should I go on to the next stage?
Yeah.
Okay, so the next stage was kind of a phone call, and it was just essentially them getting a bit more information about me, where I'm based right now as well, because I'm in Nottingham right now. Just kind of getting some information about my availability for the job and just getting to know me a little bit more. With that, they were asking questions like, what do you know about the expert industry? And I'll be honest, I didn't know much, but I did some prior research just to understand, like, it's about connecting a client with a professional, essentially. And we're essentially the middlemen or middlewomen in the situation, but obviously with a level to that. And yeah, that was an interesting phone call, because when they told me on the phone call that the average age of the company was 26, that was another thing that I was like, yo, this company is a little bit different to the rest, you know what I mean? It's a little bit different. Yeah. And that kind of gave me a bit of a boost and some encouragement, because obviously any company I get, I'm grateful for the opportunity. But if I can kind of like tailor my choice, I would like to work with younger people. And the fact that was an opportunity for me, it was really encouraging.
Yeah, that's really cool. That appealed to me as well. It's quite a fun, fast-moving industry, very sociable, and this is like it's like a graduate program essentially, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty ideal for a placement or a graduate scheme. So let's go look at your your CV then. So do you have any tips for anyone there that's applying to proSapient or anywhere else? What did you do well with your CV?
So I'll start with the aesthetics. There's a lot of websites and a lot of like templates you can either download or copy or get the inspiration from. Use a template that kind of minimizes the amount of words on the page, but maximizes the amount of content on them. And I know it's kind of vague, but like it's literally what I'm saying is what my, you know what I mean? So yeah, try and minimize the words, make it only include the very, very, very best bits about you. And for example, one bit that I included was that I'm currently trading and my prior experience. Those are the bits I highlighted the most, just because I knew that proSapient would appreciate those qualities over me loving basketball, for example. So it's kind of just about prioritizing in that sense. So I guess that's aesthetics. In terms of content as well, you don't really need to pay for things. I've spoken to a lot of people and a lot of my friends. They pay either for services to write the CV for them, or I suppose getting certificates in certain areas. There's a lot of opportunities out there for free that you should and can take advantage of. One example I'll give you is I think it's EDX, and is a range of programs and opportunities hosted by Harvard and MIT, and it's free, and it's essentially like a short course on basically any field you want, and they give you a certificate and proof of the certificate, and you can put that on your CV, and you've literally got Harvard and MIT on your CV. So
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. That's a great nugget. And I love that because there's literally no excuse, it's an online course, Google has their courses as well. Anyone can go and do them. It just takes a bit of time. But, no excuse for not having something like that on your CV if you need it. And I liked what you said as well before that about being kind of ruthless with what you put on your CV. The way I think you should think about it is like it needs to earn its way onto the page. Like, is it going to get you the job or not? And if it's not bringing enough value to the table, leave it out. Because the funny thing is, like, the more content you put onto the page, and I don't love this, but sometimes it's multiple pages, the harder it is for me as the recruiter or the employer to figure out the key bits of information that's actually going to get you the job. Usually, especially early career roles, there's only a few factors in there that's going to mean, this person needs to come to the interview. So focus on the things that really move the needle, that can kind of get you the job. So yeah, that's brilliant advice. And let's go through then to the interview stage, so the phone interview. How did that go? What sort of questions do you think you did well on? Did you prepare well with lots of research? And any tips on the interview there?
Okay, so I'll go with what I remember. So I remember it was quite a relaxed interview, which isn't always the case. But yeah, it was quite a relaxed interview. I remember them asking questions just basically about me and some information about me, following up on some of the things I put on my CV as well. So that kind of goes back to the point that what is on your CV actually matters. So yeah, there was a lot of that. In terms of the actual job itself, they were asking questions like, how are you working with young people? So obviously me as a uni student, I'm around, or obviously COVID as well, but I'm around young people all the time anyway. So that was kind of just a given. They asked me quite a few technical questions as well. So like, what do you consider in terms of mathematics? How would you consider yourself compared to other people? Obviously, it wasn't asked like that, but like just that type of question. So it was a lot of questions, just kind of just getting some information about me and just like trying to understand my suitability for the role. And I guess they like me, so they invited me to the what's the stage called? It was like a video conference.
Assessment center?
Yeah, that's the one.
Online assessment center, yeah.
Yeah, and there was like 30 people there, and they told us at the start we're only taking 7. No, sorry, at the end they told us they're only taking 7.
Wow.
And what they did was they put us in groups of 3, so it was myself and two women, and they gave us loads of tasks to do. Or no, 2 or 3 tasks to do, but they were really, really detailed. And there was a person in the call with us who was essentially just assessing us and just understanding how we work with other people. Are we overbearing? Are we quiet? Are we timid? So it was quite daunting having them in the chat, but I can understand why. And there was a lot of mathematical problems and kind of just assessing suitability as well, because that's kind of my role. assessing suitability when it comes to clients and professionals. And I think they just liked the fact that I think it was just a combination of not being too overbearing, but also not letting other people just do all the work for me. And I think, yeah, I was kind of lucky with the two people I got as well, because they were quite just relaxed and nice people as well. And I think they both got the job as well.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so our team did pretty well. But yeah, we did pretty well. One thing I will say before questions is that what I did really like is that was the first time I did actually see my face, like at that stage, because of their I think it's called blind trials that they were doing, and I think that really encouraged. And you notice the people in the actual in the assessment center, you notice that there was a lot of different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different cultures, and you could tell that that's the result of doing this blind test. And I thought that was quite interesting as well. Yeah,
that's brilliant.
All over the place there, but
no, that's good stuff. Like, that's brilliant to know for the employers listening as well. You know, why do we need to have names and cultural identities and applications? You know, let's make it as blind as we can, and then only at the assessment center or whatever you've got the opportunity to actually see the person. So it's a great way to get rid of some bias, and clearly it's led to an increase in diversity, which is what we love. So yeah, that's good to know. And so in the assessment center, you were mindful of not being too overbearing, but obviously making sure that you get heard. And I think you know, one thing you touched on is that there were 3 of you in your team, and all of you got the job. And this is so important to remember. Like, you're not competing with everyone that you're in the assessment center with necessarily. Like, you might be going for different roles. They might hire all of you, so you want to bring each other up together and like bounce off each other. So Theo comes up with an idea and I like build on that and add to it, or I come up with an idea but Theo thinks something else is the best way to go, then I can agree with him. Like, that's kind of what it's all about. And if anyone's a little bit quiet, you know, get them involved in the conversation. It's all about being inclusive and helping each other out. So that's good stuff then. So interesting. So you've done well with the assessment, and then that's the final stage then? Were you offered the job right after that?
So it was after that, it's a little bit of contract information and just kind of re-clarification of what's on the role and if I'm 100% ready to do it. But other than, there was no like extra testing after that. So yeah.
Brilliant. And you mentioned earlier on that you were dealing with some rejection up until this point. So let's talk about that. What was that like? What were you going through there? Tell me about that.
So I'll start with the tools that I actually use to apply and get the opportunity to even apply. So LinkedIn was super important for me. Glasshouse and Indeed, those are my big 3.
Glassdoor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Glassdoor. So not Glasshouse.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the processes were quite similar. So you submit your CV to this website, and then within a week or 2, you get a response. I'll say about 60 or 70% of the time, I got through that stage, and I think that was due to my CV just being okay. But then it was like a robotic online mathematics and like reasoning testing kind of thing that they had me doing a lot of the time. And I would say I'm pretty good at maths, and I think I'm pretty decent at reasoning. But these tests were just so weird. They just felt so mechanical, and like you had to watch a video and then answer questions about the video, and then like 25 minutes on, you're still answering questions about the same video that you watched 25 minutes ago. And it was just really weird. I just didn't feel like I didn't feel engaged. And when I'm not engaged, I'm not performing at my optimal. And when I'm on the phone to somebody or I'm on a call with somebody, I feel like I'm able to perform at my best because I know that there's someone watching me. So I feel like that lack of in-person,
That sort of personal touch, not having
I feel like I struggled the most with those type of tests, and I think if I did some numbers behind it, those would have been the tests I felt the most. But in terms of dealing with those failures, the first couple, they did hit me because like I felt like I was just gonna be doing this for months, looking for an internship for months, and I didn't even know if I wanted one because I wanted to have a fun summer, just do my thing. But like, obviously, you need the money, you need the experience. But with that, The first couple, as I said, they were bad. They were dealt with badly, but after a while, I just felt like this is just how it is. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. And I have to credit my mum with that as well because personally, I was like, this is not for me. I just want to just chill out. But my mom pushing me. She kept like saying, just keep going, keep going, keep going. And yeah, that's what really got me over the edge, I say. So shout out to mom.
Shout out to mom. Shout out to mom for me as well. I mean, that's great. You're lucky you've got someone like that to keep pushing you and moving you forward. That's all what it's all about. And having a really good circle, of friends and family to support you. I think too often we try and go through these things by ourselves, and getting a job is a big deal. Like, it's not easy to do. It's a big challenge. So, as friends, can you help each other out and look for jobs together and like give each other tips and practice interview together, and then share your experiences with your family as well, and your parents might have have some good advice for you as well, and words of encouragement clearly as well. So what would you say now that you've kind of got over that? What would you say to someone now going through rejection? What would be your thoughts on how they can kind of deal with that better?
So the first thing I say to them is to kind of do some self-reflection as well. But in terms of what's on your CV, how you present yourself online in terms of LinkedIn, and how many connections you have, and how much effort and time you put into that. What resources are you using in terms of Indeed, Glassdoor, as I said, LinkedIn as well. Even if you're in uni, you can use your employability team as well. So that's kind of the self-reflection bit. But in terms of the biases and the potential the forces against you, we'll say, there's not really much you can do there right now. It's not something that's really in your control, so you just have to keep going. And I know it's not really the best advice, but it's just something that my mom told me, and I guess it works. So that's kind of the message I put on. But even speaking on having people around you, like my mom, for example, having a network of people, it could be your friends, family, associates, whoever, having a core circle around you that actually want to push you to your goals and kind of understand where you are as a person, I think that does really help as well. And obviously not trying to get too deep, but that's just kind of how it is for me. Like, having people around me, like my friends, and my mom as well, like, it does really help. So
and that's the thing, really. You never know what's going to be through the next door that you knock on, and you only need one job. So it's like you all said, you just got to keep going on to the next one, and eventually you'll get there. Was there any resources or any advice that I gave you that made a difference in terms of, because you had an inflection point as well from rejection to now turning it around? So, or if not, what other resources could we provide to help out? But yeah, was there anything we did to have a positive impact, do you think?
Yeah, so you really helped with my CV. I remember our conversation. That was looking back at my CV before we spoke. It was very A4 essay looking. It wasn't good, I'll be honest. You kind of helped me clean it up, emphasize certain points as well. I think we were talking about actually no, I honestly don't remember, but we were talking about certain points on my CV that needed like extra improvements as well. Kind of putting certain things at the top of my CV so they're just quick and easy to read. And we were talking, I don't know if it was you particularly, but we were talking about how as you read something, as a person, the interest just slowly goes down. So kind of having the best bits at the forefront of your CV, that was super important. But then as well as that, having a little bit at the end that kind of just not summarizes, but just kind of is like your final selling point, because that's also quite an important bit of your CV. So through you at least, I kind of realized there's a lot of psychology behind this whole hiring process. It's not just, here's my CV, do I get a job? There's a lot of psychology, and it's kind of a game, I realized as well. Really, it's kind of a little bit of a game, but obviously a very important game to play.
Yeah, and that's life for you, right? I mean, there is an applicant tracking system that reviews CVs for some companies, and what it does essentially is use AI to see, okay, these are the terms and keywords that they've got in their CV. How well does that match with the job description? So, some employers use that to try and assess candidates. But ultimately, you've got a human on the other side of that sheet of paper that is just going to look at it for literally 4-5 seconds, scan through and say, Yeah, I reckon they could do the job. Let's have a chat to them. Like that is literally what we're talking about. It's not a, I remember yours was probably a little bit wordy. You had some longer sentences and that kind of
Yeah,
thing, and it's just like for me to have to read that, it would take me ages,
yeah,
and you've kind of just got to be mindful of that recruiter or whoever is going to have lots to do, and they might have 50 CVs, 100 CVs to go through, and they haven't got the time, quite frankly, to be like reading line by line. They want to pick it up and go, yes, you've done sales, you've got sales experience, those are the key skills, and those are the skills that I mentioned in the job description. I
yeah,
want to see what you've done, what you've achieved, what skills that's given you, and I understand the job description. I can see those link up. The other thing I think I mentioned was quantifying your results.
yeah.
So rather than saying, "Oh, I did this in sales, I was responsible for this, and I was able to exceed my sales targets by 5%. I sold over X thousand of this product per month." For someone, think about how that sounds versus, "Oh, I've got excellent sales skills." I just read so many CVs and they say excellent teamwork and excellent collaborating, excellent sales, and it's like anyone can say that. So why should I believe you as a recruiter? Whereas when I can quickly scan and see numbers don't lie. Check the scoreboard. That's the line, right? So as soon as I see the numbers, I can say, okay, that's tangible in my head. You can do the role.
Exactly.
Yeah. So quantify your results to the point, be very specific and tangible, and just help out the recruiter. They're going to be skimming through in 5 seconds, and make sure you get your key message on there nice and clearly. So yeah, I think you've given some really good advice, and hopefully people now understand that application process and how to get that role. Any other thoughts for kind of employers? So we've touched on it briefly. The blind element I like a lot. So obviously, this is the diverse podcast. What we try and do is obviously have a diverse range of people that we have on this podcast who've been successful, like you have, in the early part of their careers, and young professionals, and employers as well, and entrepreneurs. So while I'm on that subject, do hit the subscribe button, so we can keep this coming, keep us going.
Mhm.
And do go over to wearediverse.io to sign up if you're looking for an early career role as well. We've got lots of free resources, and job opportunities as well. But from an employer's perspective, I love the blind element to get rid of that bias, obviously.
Mhm.
And from a proSapient, it looks like they're really focused on the benefits of working there in terms of the environment, the social aspect, and so on. So what I want to know from you is any other thoughts on what employers can do better to attract someone like yourself, either with their application process or how they talk about themselves online or on social media. Like, what would you think, when you were deciding where to apply, and to make sure that is an inclusive place as well? What kind of things would you be looking for, and what would you want to see from employers, do you think, and how could they support better?
So, what am I looking for from employers? I'm looking for a workplace that is both challenging for myself. I think that's the first thing for me. And when I say challenging, I don't mean just hard laborers work all the time. I'm talking about work that I actually enjoy, but it's pushing me, and I'm doing this internship for an actual reason. So that's like the primary thing for me, is that it's a challenge. The second point I want to make is the social aspect of the job does need to kind of not tailor for me, but it does need to kind of suit me, if that makes sense. I don't really want to work in an office where I'm not able to communicate with people the way I do and I can. And obviously that's something that I could work on myself, but it is something that I feel like an employer should have a role in as well. Um, what else do I look for? Obviously, I look for diversity as well, because I don't want to have to fight an uphill battle as soon as I submit my CV, because I'm why, like, why do I need to do that?
Mhm.
Um, we could talk about that all day, honestly. But what else do I look for? I look for an employer that's got ambition as well. So an employer that you can see that, if you look at their social media, for example, you can see the progress as a company that they've made. And I don't know, I just feel like being in an environment where there's constant growth, A, helps me as a person because I'm always trying to grow. But B, it just means that I'm actually doing some meaningful work, and it's not just like a flat line, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so those are my three kind of main go-to. So looking for I suppose, a challenge, diversity, a good social space, and a good trend in terms of positivity in the company, if that makes sense, and growth.
Yeah, I like that. And a lot of what I'm hearing as well, if I'm an employer now, I'm thinking if I'm going to be marketing my roles, obviously you need to bring to life the challenges that it's going to involve and the skills that will give you for your career. But also just from a kind of a marketing standpoint, you need to be showing your company, your employees, right? You need to be giving insights into what is life like on a day to day in your business. And to do that, show off the people that make it what it's all about. Like that's really what makes a difference. I hear more so from Gen Z rather than from any other generation. Like it's so important the experience that you have in terms of the social life and who you're working with and so on. So bring that to life in your content with your marketing, with your like LinkedIn lives or events or even just posts. And if you can, we value diversity, right? So if you can get a diverse range of people to be involved in that process, otherwise you have that perception of, I don't know whether I can kind of be myself or if I'm going to be comfortable in the organization. And you touched on that. And it's an interesting sort of debate about adapting versus sort of being yourself. But to some extent, I do think, especially early part of your career, this is the first real full-time role that you've had. You want to feel that you can be comfortable and confident in yourself. There's kind of always going to be a balance with kind of adapting in some ways to the company culture, but I like to advise young people, like part of the reason why companies have grad schemes and internships as placements is so that they can get this new fresh perspective that maybe they don't have. You are an expert in your demographic and your age group and so on. That's an insight that they don't have. That's an insight that they don't have, and they really value that. So my advice, I guess, now for you going in is to really be confident about that and don't be shy about kind of going in there and disrupting the status quo, because that's kind of what you're paying for. You don't want to be sort of just thinking, I'm new or I'm young, I don't know much. You want to kind of go in and say, no, I've got this fresh perspective. Maybe we can do things differently in this innovative way. That's what employers really value. And they're desperate to find people like yourself, like the best students and grads out here. So yeah, man, congrats on getting your job. You've done a great role there that you've got. And I'm glad we're able to, provide a little bit of support, and you've given some encouragement. I think that's going to help people moving forward as well. So yeah, anything else that you'd like to share? Anything we didn't cover? Any final words?
One little extra, I can't mention it before, but just in case you forgot, EDX. Do some research on EDX because that will make your CV look so beautiful, man. If you have the words Harvard and MIT on your CV, is literally just you'll see the difference in failures and good results, honestly.
I love it. Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes. You've got to deal with Harvard or something. Are you like they're sponsoring you or something? Maybe after this video. Maybe
under the table doing nice, man.
Cool. All right, let's wrap it up there then. So thanks so much for joining, man. And yeah, everyone at home, subscribe if you're on YouTube or if you're on Google or Spotify or Apple or whatever. Hit that button. Keep us going. Give us a review. Give us a like. That's what we need, guys. So yeah, thanks so much, Theo. Let's leave it there.